Good morning, Ms. Sawyer and virtual class. I'm Anthony DiFilippo. I am in English 102, and here's my oral project. So first, I will start with reading my poem, Fern Hill, by Dylan Thomas. Now, as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the littling house and happy as the grass was green, the night above the dingle starry, time let me hit hail and climb. Golden in the heydays of his eyes, and honored among wagons, I was prince of the apple towns. And once below a time, I lordly had the trees and leaves, trail with daisies and barley, down the rivers of the windfall light. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns, about the happy yard, and singing as the farm was home. In the sun that is young once only, time let me play and be. Golden in the mercy of his means, and the green and golden I was huntsman and herdsman, the calves. Sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold, and the Sabbath rang slowly. In the pebbles of the holy streams, all the sun long it was running, it was lovely, the hay fields high as the house, the tunes from the chimneys, it was in the air. And playing lovely and watery, and fire green as grass, and nightly under the simple stars, as I rode to sleep the owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard, blessed among stables the night jars, flying with the ricks and the horses, flashing into the dark. And then to awake in the farm, like a wanderer white, with the dew come back, the cock on his shoulder, it was all shining. It was Adam and maiden. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew round that very day. So it must have been after the birth of a simple light, in the first spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm. Out of the winding green stable, onto the field of praise, and honored among foxes and pheasants by the gay house. Under the new-made clouds, and happy as the heart was long, in the sun born over and over, I ran my heedless ways. My wishes raced through the house, high hay, and nothing I cared at my sky blue trades that time allows. In all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning songs, before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days that time would take me, up to the swallow-thronged loft by the shadow of my hand, in the moon that is always rising. Nor that riding to sleep, I should hear him fly with the high fields, and wake to farm, forever fled from the childless land. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea. Finished. So now I will do the author's biography, and then we'll summarize the poem after. So Dylan Thomas. Dylan Marlace Thomas was born in Swansea, Wales on October 27th in 1914. He had one sister named Nancy and two loving parents who were scholars in their own right. His father, David, was an English teacher, and his mother, Florence, came from a prestigious family, and that is where they get their literate background from. Dylan Thomas grew up in a working-class environment, and his early love for literature stemmed from his father. He would read his father's collection of books and developed his own hobby of reading, like his father. So to get into his career, Thomas' first published poem was in 1934 to a local magazine called The New English Weekly. Thomas was 20 years old, and he attended the grammar school, the Swansea Grammar School, and this is where he had gained some notable reputation with his first volume of poems titled 18 Poems. Thomas is a well-renowned poet due to his work, which is often characterized by his rich imagery and ability to create emotion. He explores themes of time and the nature of life. Here are some of his most famous works. The collection of poems, his first major publication. Under Milk Wood, which is a radio play depicting the day in the life of a small Welsh town. This had a big impact on him growing up. Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, which is arguably his most notable work. Fern Hill, which is a poem that represents childhood innocence and the transition into adult life. Obviously, we know about that one. his personal life and later life. Thomas married Caitlin McNamara in 1937, and they had 3 children together. The couple is known to have had a stormy affair driven by Thomas's alcoholism and infidelity. Thomas had gained a noticeable reputation and went on several speaking tours in the United States. Thomas and his family had struggled with financial problems despite his success as a writer. Thomas died at the young age of 39 in New York in 1953. His legacy. Thomas is a huge influence on literature today, and that is apparent because I am doing a project and speaking about him right now. His work continues to be analyzed, and he's well known as one of the most profound poets of the 20th century. So that's a little bit about him and his biography. So Fern Hill. Fern Hill is a poem, and you can interpret it how you want, but the main theme of this poem is the transition from childhood innocence into your adult life and having more responsibilities, and that the nostalgia of childhood leaving you. Big transition. So we can see this in certain words throughout the text, and Thomas does really well with his imagery, and he creates emotion by doing this. An example I'd like to point out is line 10. He says, "And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns." So what he means by that is green was the beautiful landscape around him, brings him back to a good time, and carefree, he had no responsibilities. He was a child. He just was happy. That's all he had to do. Another one here, let me find it. Okay. Line 42, he says, "And nothing I cared at my sky blue trade that time allows in all his tuneful turnings so few and much morning songs before the children green and golden." Here again he says, "And nothing I cared." He just cared about whatever he wanted. He could just have fun. He was a child. He had no responsibilities, and he was an innocent person. So to represent this, I drew a sketch right here. This is my sketch, and it represents my theme of childhood innocence, the transition to adulthood and responsibilities, and the passage of time. So in this sketch, you can see I did my mom because just very influential person on my life, and just thought it would be perfect to do her. So, and she grew up in Lower Alabama, and this is supposed to represent a park called Cottage Hill Park. It was a park she used to play at, and she would always talk about it, and it's one of her best memories is just playing in this park and having no worries, just being a child, being an innocent child. So you see here, this swing actually is a swing that she used, it was her favorite spot, it was her spot, and she would just swing out here all day and could just be a child and do child things. So I drew this line to cut off, obviously. So kid here, innocence, the transition, boom. Here we go, adult, responsibilities, not carefree, very stressed. Everything that happens in adulthood, you know about it. So this clock here represents time. It's just slowly ticking. And yeah, the passage of time, that's what this is supposed to represent. The window, it's kind of dark and gloomy on this side. If you can see the background on the child side has much, it looks pretty. Kind of like Dylan Thomas, his Welsh landscape is kind of my mom's Cottage Hill Park. Right here represents the same type of thing. And yeah, so let's see. Window, that's the only, it's a little bit of blue light, a little bit of background to show that you still have happiness, but it's not how it was here. And obviously she's working, a lot of responsibilities, just representing the transition from innocence to experience. And yeah, so here's my sketch, and thank you.